podcast, and we have our way too early playoff predictions. That's right. We're not doing a way too early top 10. We're doing a way too early playoff predictions, which means we're going to put a group of 5 team in there, and then we're going to put 11 other teams in there. And let's go ahead and get started. Number 12, I'm going to start with the group of 5 team. That is the Boise State Broncos. Now, this is a Boise State Bronco team that is not your Chris Peterson Boise State Broncos, the one that was dominant, the one that won 11 games every single year. It seemed like 10, 11 games. They were guaranteed a 10-win season from the beginning. This team, I do think, is a 10-win floor and probably an 11-1 ceiling. And the reason I think that is if you look at their schedule, they've got to go to Oregon. And so they just need to keep that game a little bit more competitive, I think, than they did the Washington game last year, because they're going to have a Memphis team that has something to say about that group of 5 bid, and obviously they're not going to play them. The Broncos return 18 starters. They got Malachi Nelson out of the portal, which was a huge victory for them. And so I'm going to put them in as a slight favorite, and I think that they're going to finish at 11-1 and get the group of 5 auto bid. Number 11, the Miami Hurricanes. Cristobal, 3rd season with the Canes. I think as long as they don't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory at some point this season, that Cristobal will get these guys over the hump and they will get into the playoffs. So I have them at number 11. You know, this is kind of a typical coaching staff for Cristobal, and what I mean by that is he's got some coordinators on offense that he can have as much input as he needs, and usually a pretty solid defensive coordinator. So I think they're okay there. We're just going to see how the cohesion is this year. Cam Ward, the pickup in the portal for him was just huge, and I think that is the difference maker, along with Clemson not being on the schedule. They also have FSU at home. So their hardest road games are the Swamp and at Louisville. So I predict them with a 9-3 floor. I have them as a 12-0 ceiling because if everything went right, yes, I think they actually have a schedule that is manageable enough for them to go undefeated. I think they're going to finish probably 10-2 and get the ACC's auto bid. All right, number 10, the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. New offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock from LSU, Marcus Freeman. Now, Riley Leonard is not Jaden Daniels, but I expect a huge uptick in that Notre Dame offense. The defense returns a ton of studs: Xavier Watts, Botello, Kaiser, Mills, Cross. They have a tricky first game. A&M, they're traveling to College Station, so new staff down there with Mike Elko. We're not sure. That's going to be a really interesting game down there because we know A&M has a talented roster. And so we're going to find out a lot about Notre Dame very early. They have all of their major opponents at home, like I said, except for that tricky first game, and then they have to go to USC. Now, USC is another one of those teams that could be making some noise with the hire of DeAnton Lynn. And so they've got a little bit of change over there. It's going to be really interesting. So that could shift, that the way that I view that game could shift one way or the other. But I have Notre Dame in here at 10. I think they are a solid 10. They have a 9-3 floor, an 11-1 ceiling, and I see them with a 10-2 finish and getting an at-large bid. All right, Michigan, number 9. Why do I have the Wolverines at number 9, you ask? They're the defending national champions. They just dominated their schedule. They've beaten Ohio State 3 years in a row. Oh my goodness, like what is going on? How could they be number 9? Well, they're replacing head coach. They're replacing their starting quarterback, running back, wide receiver, center. Their defensive coordinator just left. So there is some continuity with the promotion of Sharon Moore. However, I have questions when you're trying to replace that much, and how successful are they going to be? We're going to learn a lot about Sharon Moore and his ability to coach this year. But coming off a national championship year, I think also understanding, I think the Michigan fans are patient. They understand kind of what's happening. This is not a do or die year for Sharon Moore, I don't think, by any stretch of the word. So they have a tough schedule as well. They're at Ohio State. I have that as a baked-in loss. They have Oregon at home. They have Penn State at home. But I see this team, if everything goes wrong, 9-3 floor. If everything goes right, probably an 11-1 ceiling. Like I said, that Ohio State loss is baked in, and I think they're going to be at a 10-2 finish and an at-large bid. Utah, the Utah Utes, as I like to say. Injury-filled seasons is an understatement if I were to talk about Utah last year. They were decimated by injuries. Absolutely decimated, down to their third-string quarterback. They had multiple starters out all season long. It was just a brutal finish for the Utes. Now, Cam Rising is coming back, 7th year, one of the most experienced quarterbacks now in college football. They are the poster child of continuity for coaching. The Utah fan base is loyal. Those guys are tough out at home, and they play strong, disciplined defense, always physical. The offensive line, I would see them as a big improvement this year is what I expect. They were young this last year. They went in the portal. They got Micah Pittman, and they got Dorian Singer. We'll see how Pittman does. He's been a little bit of a transfer around kid, but he also can be an explosive playmaker, and the Utes need that. Their toughest road game is at Oklahoma State. I realize they have Colorado on the road. That is like a whole nother subject that I don't want to get into. But we also have Arizona and BYU at home. Now, Arizona was going to be the favorite, but the coaching carousel, that made me give them pause, and now I have Utah as the favorite to win the Big 12. Utah, if everything goes right, 12-0. I don't really have a floor for them. Maybe 10-2 would be a floor, and an 11-1 finish, getting the auto bid from the Big 12. Number 7, the Alabama Crimson Tide. And it's almost criminal to have them down here at 7, is what most people will think just based on rosters. But if you look at what they lost to the portal and you look at everything as a whole with the coaching change, you replacing Nick Saban, I mean, no easy task. Now, they've got a really good coach in Kalen DeBoer, a guy that's won with a lot less talent than at Alabama. Now, he's also not coached a day in the SEC, and he is 37-9 as a Division I head coach. Like his overall record's much better than that, but 37-9 as a Division I head coach. So where do I think? I think that he also, Kalen DeBoer, this is something that he has always had, which is great quarterbacks. He does very well when he has these great quarterbacks that can throw the football. So does Jalen Milroe fit that? We know he can run like a running back, but does he fit that? Is he the same type of a Jake can he throw like a Jake Haener or a Michael Penix Jr.? I'm not so certain. I'm not certain he can't. I'm not certain he can either. I just don't think I've seen enough. He's done well with his opportunities that he's had. He's made some incredible throws. There's no, I think, lack of talent there, but can he do that? Then the schedule is also backloaded. You have, first of all, you've got your first game is a home game against Georgia, the first SEC game. So that's going to tell us a lot about this DeBoer era. But then you've got a little bit of a backloaded schedule, which is the Iron Bowl in Missouri, who is a sneaky team in there. I think Missouri could give a lot of people fits. They can check a lot of boxes as a really good team. They were right on the cusp of playoff team for me, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. But for right now, I've got Alabama as an 11-1 ceiling. I've got that Georgia loss. That one's baked in for these guys, just like I had the Ohio State loss for Michigan. And I've got a 10-2 finish, and people in Tuscaloosa are not going to like that, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think you're going to start 5-1 and finish 5-1, and you're in the playoff. So at-large bid, SEC in the playoff. Number 6, the Penn State Nittany Lions. That's right. I actually have Penn State in front of Alabama. Well, how could I do that? Penn State, it's every single year I have a team that I believe did the right things in the offseason. Penn State is that team this year for me. I think that they went out and they realized they had a real big issue on offense. They had an elite defense last year, and that defense was on the field a lot because the offense was so bad. But they went out and they got Andy Kotelnicki from Kansas, who has Kansas up in the top 3 in yards per attempt on rushing, and they finished 6th in yards per play. So they lost Manny Diaz. They went out and they got Tom Allen, who is an experienced coordinator, really good defensive mind. Their roster, similar talent level, with maybe a higher than average core of returning players. So I like everything that Penn State is doing. Now, the thing about Penn State is they're not going to be tested likely until USC, and then they have to go to Camp Randall, okay? And then they get Ohio State at home, which is going to be really interesting for the Buckeyes. That's going to be a tough trip. And I think if Penn State does what I think they'll do, which is actually they will put a lot of this together, the things that they've been missing, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I just expect them to be very much improved. I think they're going to make some noise this upcoming season and give people some problems and maybe win a game or two that they shouldn't. So my prediction for them is an 11-1 ceiling, a 9-3 floor, a 10-2 finish, and an at-large bid. All right, number 5, toot toot the lane train. That's right. Toot toot. The portal king. He went in the transfer portal, got the number 1 class out of there, filled every position in need that he needed to, got the number 1 D tackle, Walter Nolan. And I wonder if this is the season that Lane gets over the hump. If this is the season that Ole Miss kind of finally, gets out of that Tier 2 SEC and gets into the Tier 1. And I think that they have done a good enough job in the portal. I think all of the pieces are there. They have no Alabama on the schedule, and then they get Georgia at home. So I think if you're an Ole Miss fan, hot toddy, that's right. Prediction, 11-1 ceiling. I think a 9-3 floor for this team. I actually have them, though, at an 11-1 finish and an at-large bid as the number 5 team. Number 4, the Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em. Well, they did the very first thing that you have to do, which is keep your head coach, and they kept Sarkisian when the Alabama job opened up. So that was victory number 1. Victory number 2 in the offseason for Texas was the portal. They had 8 portal additions. However, the average player's rank was 92. So this was a quality over quantity. If you look through the portal, there's a couple teams that have quality over quantity, and Texas is one of the top ones there. Quinn Ewers, great starting quarterback, is a good one to have. I need to see a little bit more out of him, I think, this year, especially as games get tight. They're in a good situation, or as good as anybody in college football, because they have a guy with the last name Manning backing him up. That's right, Arch Manning backing up. So if something goes wrong with Ewers, if he gets injured, Manning's right there. So you're in a good situation there. You lost Xavier Worthy, but you went and got Isaiah Bond, right, from Alabama. You went and got Silas Bolden out of the portal as well. You got Ann Arbor in week 2, so got to go to Michigan in week 2. We're going to learn a lot right then about Texas, and then Athens in week 8. So that is a little bit of a tough road right there. I've got Texas, though, considering everything, I've got Texas at 12-0 ceiling. I've got them at a 10-2 floor, 11-1 finish, and I have them in the SEC championship game, but also, more importantly, in the playoffs at number 4. Number 3, the Oregon Ducks, and the grass is damn green in Eugene. That's right, Coach Lanning, and he went to the portal, got 4 of the top 17 players. He has the 3rd-ranked class in the country coming out of high school, and there's just a lot going on in Eugene. Now, you lose Bo Nix, okay? So you lose Bo Nix, that's got to hurt, right? But nope, he went in the portal, he got Dylan Gabriel. So a very equal caliber, I would say, quarterback, at least for that offense, for sure, I will say. Now, Troy Franklin to the draft. You get Evan Stewart. You lose Kyrie Jackson, you get Jabbar Muhammad. Dan filled every position that he needed to do. Maybe there's a few needs left, but we have that spring portal season coming up. And then I expect the Ducks will be 5-0 until they host Ohio State. Now, you have trips to Ann Arbor and Camp Randall. So between hosting Ohio State, your trip to Camp Randall, your trip to Ann Arbor, I think that they have a 12-0 ceiling if everything goes right, a 10-2 floor, and I've got them at 11-1 in the Big Ten championship game. So they're going to get a playoff spot regardless of outcome of that game, and I have them as the number 3 seed. Number 2, the Ohio State Buckeyes. This comes down to one position for me. This is the quarterback position for Ohio State. Defense is going to be really good. Jim Knowles, one of the best defensive coordinators in the country. The defense is going to be good. They're going to be elite. But can Will Howard, can he be a threat in the passing game? We know he can run, and we know they're loaded at running back. We know they're loaded all around. They have, as of right now, they have Bill O'Brien. We're going to see, that could change here, is the current rumor as of this filming. So nothing's been formally announced, but there are rumors that he may be headed out for a head coaching job. You've got Henderson that returns, right? You got Judkins from the portal from Ole Miss. And then you got Caleb Downs, who you added to an already elite group on defense, and you got the best safety in the country. I mean, Ohio State they aren't playing. They are pissed that Michigan won the national championship. You can tell the dedication. They are locked in. These guys are ready to go, and it's a national championship or bust for Buckeyes right now. I think that is the feeling that I'm getting coming out of Columbus. So they got to go to Eugene, and they got to go to Happy Valley, right? But my prediction for them, I think they have a 12-0 ceiling. I think they've got a 10-2 floor. I'm really on the fence if it's going to be a 12-0 or an 11-1 finish. So I just went with the easier one. I chickened out and I went 11-1. I would not be surprised if they go 12-0. That Penn State being so improved, what I think they will be improved this year, that's what gave me pause on that and says I'll go with the 11-1. But they're going to be in the Big Ten championship game. They're going to be an automatic. I have them as the auto qualifier, winning the Big Ten championship and being the number 2 seed. Number 1, Georgia. Georgia, that's right, baby. They are the team to beat this year. I have them as the number 1 seed. Now, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban out. Kirby Smart, he's the best coach in college football. Dabo, you have an argument, but I think current results, everything that's happened recently in the last 3 years, it's got to go to Kirby. And Kirby recruits as well as anybody and better than almost everybody. They have 20 people out in the transfer portal. They brought 6 in. They can be selective. They're Georgia. They just produce really good, high-quality NFL football players. And if you're not a guy like that, you don't go play at Georgia. That's just how it is. So the 6 that he brought in, I guarantee you those are dogs. Okay? Now, lose your starting center, lose 3 DBs, your all-world tight end. You have some attrition there, but Georgia is the one team that I think. I mean, you put Ohio State there that can reload. Obviously, a lot more teams can reload because of the portal, but I'm saying like top talent. Georgia's going to do that. They have Malachi Starks returning, Dan Jackson, Kyron Jones. They got ATN out of the portal, so I feel really good just about the guys they have coming in. Always going to have an elite Kirby Smart defense. Their schedule is probably one of the more brutal schedules in college football. At Clemson, you got road games. At Alabama, at Texas, at Ole Miss. I mean, that is a brutal schedule. That would break any other team except for Georgia. I'm telling you. No, Alabama, you don't want that schedule. I'm telling you. Texas, you don't want that schedule. You do not want that smoke. Georgia, give me that smoke. That's what I think. So, prediction for the Dogs. If worst case, things go really bad, I don't know, aside from like a Carson Beck injury or something like that. But I would say 10-2 floor. I've got them 12-0 ceiling. I've got Georgia with a 12-0 finish, the auto qualifier from the SEC, and that is your number 1 team, and that is your top 12. All right, now that we have the top 12, we have the near misses. Okay, this was tough. A team that I think could make a lot of noise. There's 2 that really come to my mind. One of them is USC. So we know that USC has talent in their backyard. Talent has not been the issue at USC. It's been coaching. Lincoln Riley, great offensive mind. The defense was abysmal. It was horrible Lincoln's first 2 years there. And so there's a huge jump expected in their defense with the hiring of DeAnton Lynn from UCLA. So you go to your crosstown rivals, you get their defensive coordinator to come over, then you start recruiting different guys on defense. You get an NFL defensive line coach. They're changing the culture of the defense at USC. At least that's the attempt as of right now. If USC improves as much as they do, yeah, on offense, they'll probably be down maybe just a little bit. I mean, it's hard to say just a little bit, but I'm telling you, Miller Moss looked really good in the bowl game. So maybe they're down a little bit on offense, but that won't matter. I think that they will be up on defense significantly. And if that happens, USC could be a player to watch in the playoffs. Like, I almost put them in. Same with Missouri. Eli Drinkwitz, great coach, right? They've got, is it Brady Cook, I think, is their quarterback coming back? And they've got a lot of pieces there. They have Luther Burden. They've got Kristen Williams, a stud defensive tackle. They've got a lot of guys, and they've got good continuity there at Missouri. And that team plays very well. They've given Georgia fits the last 2 years. I think they're physical. They beat Ohio State in the game. Now, take that bowl game with a grain of salt, but I'm just saying that Missouri, they are a team that I think is on the uptick. It was hard to keep them out. And so Missouri or USC definitely probably getting, pinched by, I guess, a group of 5. But it is what it is in this playoff format. So even though we don't know exactly what it is, we do know that a group of 5 will be in there. So USC, Missouri, I've got Oklahoma, Clemson, LSU, Florida State. Those were some other ones. I'm not going to go into those, but those were other ones that I was on the fence about, right? Norvell, Dabo, like you can't, like, you know, it's really hard to say these guys won't be in the playoff. And so I won't be surprised if a single one of those are in the playoffs. But that's what I got for now. And so thank you for joining the show today, and we will see you next time. For Sports Idol Nation, I'm Josh Rodriguez. Sports is in our DNA, and I hope it's in yours too.